All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for showing up this morning to officially welcome back Kelly Krauskopf as President of Basketball Business Operations for the Indiana Fever.
What if I told you that the Indiana Fever's tumultuous and frequently unpleasant season wasn't a failure? However, a smokescreen. What if every awkward mistake, every defensive failure, and every probing headline was Caitlin Clark's preparation for the pros a part of a cunning, well-thought-out, and incredibly conceited scheme? This bold plan aims to entirely destroy the WNBA's existing dominance in addition to changing the Fever's fortunes. Structure, leaving the long-standing titans of the league in a state of shock and confusion, seems like an absurd plot. A disappointing season gave rise to a desperate fan theory. However, the president of the team might have unintentionally confirmed everything, revealing a strategy that is both cunning and brutal, and a claim that the majority of Lynn Dunn, the president of Fever, was written off as merely business rhetoric and a boring assurance to a faltering fan base. Out a design for a super club that would destroy the league, and anyone realized how serious her statements were. She talked about using her fundamental skills to create a long-term championship challenger, but what she was actually saying, Caitlin Clark was the ultimate prize in the start of an arms race. This was not an assurance for the far-off future. Was a declaration of war against the rest of the league, and the initial actions have already being produced behind the front office's closed doors. This is the tale of how the Indiana Fever are using their own perceived ineptitude, taking advantage of their difficulties to build one of the strongest rosters in sports history. It turns out that the proof has been concealed all along under the pretext of mediocrity. The league as a whole is going to be warned, and a woman who has witnessed it all is the mastermind behind it all, a living legend in women's basketball, Lynn Dunn. Known for being a strategic thinker, this coach and executive has altered the very fabric of the WNBA. While everyone else is playing checkers, the puppet master is playing chess. She doesn't waste words. And her recent remarks regarding the team's course were much more than PR gibberish meant to appease irate supporters. She placed a strong emphasis on building around her pillars and getting the veteran pieces required to succeed at the highest level. This sounds just like what any general manager of a rebuilding team would say to an uninformed fan. It is generic, safe, and dull. However, to those who comprehend the meticulously selected words of front offices, this was an unmistakable indication. Competition is the crucial word that transforms everything. Not grow. Indiana's long drawn-out period of gradual progress, known as the era of patience, is formally and unceremoniously over. They won't have to wait 3 or 4 years for their draft selections to develop and, ideally, succeed. Become a successful team. Between the lines, it is implied that the timeline has significantly accelerated almost forcefully. Caitlin Clark has brought unparalleled attention to the front office. The worldwide media frenzy, the record-breaking broadcast deals, the sold-out arenas on the road. They are aware that they are seated on a golden goose. However, they are also aware that this golden window is brittle and is closing with each physical blow they. The star player takes. Dunn's words were more than a strategy. It was the stealthy beginning of a vigorous, full-scale pursuit of a title. Additionally, it entails being prepared to dismantle a large portion of their current squad in order to rebuild it into an uncontrollable beast. Adding a player isn't the only thing involved. The goal is to establish a dynasty as quickly as possible. However, this startling sense of urgency wasn't merely the result of fear or avarice. The very basis for this bold. Long before the phenomenon known as Clarkonomics even existed, the move was made more than a year ago, prior to a single ticket being sold. The first, and perhaps as significant, pillar of the Caitlin Clark Show's eventual dynasty was already in place. Firmly in position. Boston, Aaliyah. Thus, the 2023 first overall pick and the current Rookie of the Year marked the start of the design. She has more than simply a large frame and the paint. She is a powerful, technically proficient force. A player that can stabilize a team for 10 years because of his amazing footwork, great basketball IQ, and defensive presence. She was the ideal solid base for any winning squad. Next, using a mix of cosmic. They acquired the most valuable asset in the sport's history thanks to good fortune and another subpar season. Clark, Caitlin is extremely uncommon and potent to land 2 consecutive number 1 picks. Provides them with an ideal Balanced, powerful, inside-out combination that other teams have tried and failed to create for decades. With her unbounded range and unearthly court vision, Clark is able to breach defenses, point away from the edge. Additionally, Boston is a dependable and strong force in the post, prepared to punish any squad that overcommits to preventing Clark. And here is their master plan's hidden weapon, the financial cheat code that makes the entire super squad idea likely rather than simply feasible. These two franchise-altering superstars have rookie-scale salaries that are absurdly low. Caitlin Clark is the most well-known and marketable. The WNBA wage of the world's female athletes is less than $80,000 annually. Aaliyah Boston is in a comparable salary range. This is more than simply an interesting fact. The financial loophole is what opens the way for a hostile takeover of the league. Two of the world's top young players have signed extremely low-cost contracts with the Fever for the ensuing years. This provides them with a level of financial flexibility never seen before in a league with a hard salary cap, to search for the enormous, revolutionary superstar contracts required to finish the puzzle. They have established the two most significant dynasty pillars for a combined compensation that is. The Las Vegas Aces have fewer than one seasoned role player in WNBA history. This is the biggest financial heist, and they're going to profit. However, this degree of haste and desperation wasn't expected to result from having two young stars. A slow, systematic build was perhaps the initial, more traditional idea. Add a few bits here and there. Cultivate the young talent with the goal of being a contender in 3 to 5 years. All of it was altered after Caitlin. When Clark onto a WNBA court, the league's seasoned veterans chose to treat her cruelly. Nobody could have foreseen the full intensity of the Fever, not even the most negative front office boss. Physique and, let's face it, the direct targeting she would experience from the start. The notorious hip check from Chennedy Carter was a catalyst as well as a foul. Breanna Stewart's blind side screen wasn't merely a challenging move. It served as a warning. The aggressive defense, the off-ball shoves, the frequent bumps, and the media narrative that the organization was rocked by the bullying and testing she was subjected to. They discovered in a terrifying, knowing that they had a billion-dollar asset, the future face of the league, rather than just a basketball player who was being used as a punching bag in public. This is what destroyed the previous timeline and compelled Lynn Dunn to act. The 5-year project had to be shortened to a 5-month mission. Clark's safety became the top priority. Number 1. And they soon realized that the only way to actually accomplish that is to surround her with a lot of opposing teams cannot afford to concentrate all of their aggression on offensive and defensive talent on her. They require a seasoned enforcer who is a tough-as-nails fighter who enjoys engaging in physical combat. They require a validated, exceptional supplementary scorer who can penalize defenders for Clark's double-teaming. They require a perimeter for lockdown defender to relieve the strain. Clark has experienced physical violence, which is what is currently encouraging the formation of the super team intended to exact revenge. The front desk witnessed the mistreatment of their golden goose, and they all agreed that enough was enough. It was time to begin dominating instead of developing. Being the league's younger sister was no longer an option. It was time to take on the role of the closet monster. But without the funds to carry it out, an ambitious plan is nothing. And that's where this tactic transforms from a dream of optimism to a horrifyingly plausible scenario for the remainder of the WNBA. The league uses a strict salary cap. Therefore, unlike in certain other professional sports, no team can simply spend its way to a championship. It necessitates meticulous, nearly surgical, strategic preparation. And the Fever have been doing precisely that beneath everyone's noses. With Boston and Clark on their absurdly low rookie contracts, the Fever now have a huge financial benefit that resembles a secret code. Now examine their present roster in more detail. There are many players on expiring or temporary agreements. These aren't only roster positions. These are monetary assets that need to be removed from the records. Kelsey Mitchell, a gifted scorer with a high salary, is one player who might be transferred to open up more additional room. The front office has the option to bundle these contracts in trades or allow them to expire, creating a significant amount of cap room to chase a superstar with a maximum contract. or even 2, they are carefully assembling a war chest that very few teams can match. Can even hope to match in the league. It's a cunning, nearly brutal abuse of the league's own regulations. They are building a financial powerhouse by taking advantage of their previous mistakes, which resulted in Boston and Clark's high draft selections. They are able to present a top-tier superstar with a maximum salary that rival teams are willing to accept at any free agent meeting, who are unable to match the salaries of their own celebrities, such as Breanna Stewart or Aya Wilson. The Fever are 3 moves up in this financial chess match, and ready to checkmate the entire league by transforming their well-developed financial flexibility into an excessive quantity of firepower on the court. Finding a whale is now more important than simply adding a good player. To complete their trinity of power, they have a talent that can change the league. So, in this covert operation, who precisely are they aiming for? The front office will never openly acknowledge this aspect of the plan. However, the murmurs and logical linkages. A distinct picture is already beginning to emerge around the league. They require more than simply another scorer. They require a particular kind of player, a seasoned professional with championship DNA, capable of managing the enormous pressure to play with Clark and assume a vocal leadership position. Names such as Killia Copper, a strong opponent, and a seasoned explosive scorer come to mind as a top trade target right away. Imagine her on the wing, an unrelenting slasher who would prevent defenses from giving up and supporting Clark. Or Boston. What about a player such as Darica Hamby? A strong, athletic, and adaptable forward who had a vicious streak and would quickly establish himself as the team's enforcer on the court, giving the others a clear, unspoken message of the league that Caitlin Clark's days of being bullied are now ended. However, the final reward, the one that would actually upend the league and bring about a new period of supremacy, might be stealing a star from one of the current super teams. Could they make an unexpected push at an Aces player, or maybe Jewel Lloyd? Or the Liberty when contracts become available in the near future? They're producing an unprecedented amount of cap space. Nobody is off the table at all. The Fever are pinpointing the precise players on a secret hit list, who suited their new aggressive mindset, their time frame, and their system. They are searching for murderers. For veterans who may be fed up with their current position and would like the opportunity to create a new legacy alongside the biggest and the brightest star. And building this super team is now a worrisome question of whether rather than if. Who and when? This bold paradigm-shifting approach is not taking place in a vacuum. The WNBA as a whole is observing. They are also afraid, despite what they say in public, throughout the past several years.